Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Premier League Minute. My name is Kels Dayton, and this is Roundball Daily's new initiative here. We're going to take a look at some of the things going on in the Premier League really quickly and through a quick hitting type of analysis situation here. So I'm just happy the Premier League is back right now as you take a look at it. Thank God we had a few weeks off, and I didn't know what to watch over here. I was watching futsal. Basically on the Fox Soccer channel because it was like the Copa America for futsal, which I had never even, I think I've heard of it, but I had never seen it before. Very interesting. It's interesting that they still only score about 2 goals a game, basically no more scoring than there is in regular soccer, which is strange because it's like the size of a basketball court is the court, and they've got goals on each end, and definitely not the same thing. And I feel like you could make some tweaks, make there be some more scoring, a little more action, a little more like indoor lacrosse or arena football league or something like that. But seems like they could make that happen. But you take a look at it, and the Premier League, obviously that's what we're here to talk about. Premier League's back. And not a second too soon, really, as you look at it. And Newcastle today in the first game, or actually 3 of them kind of were going on simultaneously today as it returned here on Tuesday. But Newcastle taking down Everton is the first one I wanted to talk about. Newcastle certainly 3-1 was the final score. Kieran Trippier scored for them. His first goal for them obviously came over from Atletico Madrid, former Spur, which that's my team. Definitely a little bit of the heart there as you're thinking about that. But I think he did a great job, and I think Newcastle did a great job in that game, winning that game. I think they're moving up. I think the talent that they have, when you look at it, like obviously the takeover was huge when they got bought out by the Saudi Arabian government, basically, although nobody wants to admit that there. But the money that they have now, I think certainly they're going to have a chance to really do a great job, and I think move up. And certainly I think they have enough talent with the people that they brought in with from the transfer deadline. I think they're going to have they definitely have more talent than the rest of the teams in that bottom 3, and I think they're going to easily stay in at this point, especially seeing how they waxed Everton. Obviously, Everton's not playing very well. Rafa Benitez did a terrible job there this year. Never thought that he would be as bad as he was at Everton because he was obviously excellent. Certainly, he was good at Newcastle before, and then at Chelsea before that, and then he ran off to China for a couple of years for some reason, for the money, obviously. But you look, Carlo Ancelotti did a great job with Everton, and just last year, I think it was the beginning of last year, beginning of the season, they were in top of the table for a little while. So I think, certainly they have some players. Dominic Calvert-Lewin has been out, hasn't had a full season, so that's been something that's really hurt them. And I think talent-wise, obviously they just bought Dele Alli from Tottenham, which kind of hurts me. That hurts my heart a little bit as a Spurs fan. But yeah, I think him getting there, I think that was kind of telling. I think Frank Lampard is going to be interesting to see how he does. They are in a relegation battle, like it or not, at this point. I think they're too talented to stay in that relegation battle. I don't think that they will throughout the rest of the season. Obviously, we're into February, and that's kind of way too late for Everton fans. They would never have wanted to be in this position currently, but they are there. And 3-1 game, obviously, with Newcastle winning that game. I think the fact that they showed the talent that they have, and I think they showed with Trippier and some of the other guys, I think they've got enough. Elaine St. Maximin up front, they're a good attacking team. Eddie Howe, I think, is a good manager. Did a great job, obviously, with Bournemouth, bringing them up from, I think it was the second tier, League 2, maybe even lower than that. They're basically going into administration financially when he took over and just basically skyrocketed them up with a great style. And I love the way that his teams play. Callum Wilson and those guys, obviously him being there now helps them. And they've just got so much talent. I think Maximan is one of the guys who's going to stay even throughout this takeover situation because he's good enough to be able to do that and to be able to play on Newcastle here. So Newcastle with the 3-1 win there. West Ham beat Watford today 1-0. West Ham 4th place now, continuing in 4th place here in the table, and with 24 games, they've got 40 points at this point. Man U just 1 game less played and 39 points. So they could overtake them here, but we all saw what happened to Man U today against Burnley, which we'll get into in a second. But I think the race for the top 4 right now really is between West Ham, Man U, Arsenal, and Tottenham. I think those are the 4 teams. I do think Tottenham, what Conte's been able to do, bringing in some guys, and ever since he took over, the way that they've played, they've looked much better. Beat Brighton in the FA Cup. I think they just look more energized. I think they could make an FA Cup run here because I think it means so much to them. Haven't won a trophy in so long. I think they've got a chance to make a run and make something out of the season, and I think it would be a wonderful outcome for them if they made the top 4. And I kind of think that they've got the advantage here as you take a look at some of the things. I think Man U clearly is the most talented team of those teams. I don't think Arsenal, I may call me biased a little bit, but I don't think that they're on that level in terms of the talent with these other squads. Even West Ham, when you look at Saeed Benrahma, you look at some of these guys, Antonio, obviously up front, David Moyes has done a tremendous job, and they've kind of been wobbly a little bit, only beat Kidderminster, who was basically like the UMBC, if you follow college basketball, which I know you do here on Roundball Daily, but of the FA Cup, and Kidderminster, basically a 4 non-league team that made an incredible run, beating some teams to get through to the round of 32 in the FA Cup. So incredible what they did. And I think when you look at them, obviously West Ham needed a Declan Rice goal in the 92nd minute to move on there. So that's I think West Ham, my point, I think, is that West Ham's been struggling a little bit shaky. But I do think that they do have the chance to get back on track here. It was a good win. Watford's just lifeless. I think Watford is done and dusted at this point, despite changing managers 87 times. I don't know why they do that. Cisco Munoz did a good job with them. He should have been, he should still be there right now, in my opinion. I think he's unfairly was sacked, as pretty much everybody at Watford was really kind of stunned at the Claudio Ranieri hiring, and also further stunned, shocked really at the Roy Hodgson situation. I thought he was going into retirement. He's about 84 years old. Did not think that he was coming back. 78, I think he actually is, or 74, something like that. But I didn't think that he still wanted to manage. I thought after leaving Crystal Palace, thought that he could have come back to Crystal Palace, I thought, at the first place, because he had done such a great job there and kind of is a club legend there, as well as at Fulham. But keeping them up year after year and the consistency, but I just don't see it happening. I think they've got some good players, Dennis up front. They've got some talent that they can go to, some attacking talent, but they just don't have enough here. And it's kind of surprising to me as a fan who really just started watching back in 2018, and they were a team, I think, finished 7th that year, or were in 7th at one point, certainly finished higher, mid-table possibly, but not anywhere near the relegation zone. And they had some good players, Troy Deeney back then. So to me, it's kind of interesting that they've fallen so much, and I think that they will. I think they're going to go back down. I think they got a chance, obviously, to bounce back quickly, because that's the type of club they are, kind of a yo-yo club at this point, and certainly well built to bounce back. But I think it's interesting to see what's happened there. Then you take a look at Burnley and Man United, 1-1. Obviously, United fans will be very frustrated that they drew this game. Burnley needed a win in that game. Everyone's talking about the fact that it was good for them to get a draw, but they're at the bottom of the table still 20th with 14 points only. But they do have 20 games played. But you look at the teams around them. Watford has played 22. They're on 15 points, so 1 more point. Norwich, 2 more points in 22 games. Newcastle now, as I said before, I think they've just outclassed the rest of those teams in that group. They're up to 18 points with 22 games. And Everton's played 21 games, and they're 22. So obviously a 4-point cushion between them and Newcastle. I think they're in kind of a tricky situation. I think they've got too much talent. I don't think that they will get really dragged into the relegation battle for the rest of the season, but they are in a relegation battle right now, whether they like it or not, and that's something they've got to deal with. And then Leeds and Brentford. Leeds is 22 points, Brentford 23, respectively. Certainly, they're kind of in the hunt. I think I could see Brentford. Brentford's got a lot of talent. They've really played well. Their whole program there is outstanding. I love what they're doing. Thomas Frank, I think, is a good coach. Ivan Toney, despite some of the things that happened where he may have said F Brentford, and not really a little controversial there, but certainly, I think despite that, I think he'll come back and play well for them. They've got a lot of good players in Buemo, though he needs to learn how to finish. Certainly Canos as well. They've done an excellent job this season, and I think their talent has kind of caught people by surprise a little bit. I think the way that they play is a little bit better suited for the Premier League. They do play very attacking and fast and forward, but they're also better at defending than a team like Norwich, who seems kind of weak. Certainly going forward, it's kind of mind-boggling to me how Norwich can dominate in the Championship and then be so poor in the Premier League. I know they've been better certainly under Dean Smith, but Daniel Farke, they were just kind of a joke. Daniel Farke was kind of a farce, really. Just change one letter in his name there, and it's kind of the same thing. But yeah, they needed to let him go. Unfortunately, I feel bad for him because he's done such a great job in the Championship, but certainly needed to go there. And then you take a look at them. They're obviously in the hunt, 22 games played, 16 points. So I think really right now, my thing is that Burnley, I think they needed that win against Man U. They're 14 right now with 20 games played. Even if they come back through these next two games in hand that they have, so the other teams around have played 22, even if they win both of those games, they'll still only be on 20 points. Could be enough to get them past Norwich and Watford, but Newcastle, I think, is leaving that pack. They've got to catch possibly Everton or possibly Leeds or Brentford, who would have to come down to them. You could see that happening with Brentford. Leeds, of course, has a lot of great attacking players. Patrick Bamford, great job with Marcelo Bielsa. What he's done. Jack Harrison has really stepped up and improved a lot over the last couple of years, and he's a good attacking player. So I don't think that Leeds, despite the fact they had a great season last year, kind of a slump this year in their second season, I don't think that they are going to fall into the relegation zone. I just think they've got too much talent, too much class there. So I put them ahead of some of these other teams, and I think really it might be at this point, the bottom three that we have at this point might be the bottom three with Norwich, Watford, and what was the other team I was just talking about? Burnley. Yeah, those are the three that I think are probably the three worst teams. And I think at this point, I can't see anybody else getting relegated. I think it's going to end up being those three. And it's interesting because one of the things that Newcastle did at the deadline here was to acquire Chris Wood from Burnley. And of course, that really hurt Burnley. I think when Newcastle got sold, I think Burnley maybe took a look at their surroundings and were like, okay, it doesn't look great. Obviously, they still only have one win on the season. They may end up going down, and I hope they keep Sean Dyche as their manager. Maybe Burnley just wanted to take that money for Wood and, just give it another go next season in the Championship. I hope they keep Dyche because I think he's done such a great job. He is Burnley football, I feel like, as far as I'm concerned. Like, he is that guy. Kind of looks like me if I take my hat off a little bit with the bald head and the beard, just getting in there. He's got that toughness, that going out there in the snowstorm with no jacket on, That's the type of guy that Sean Dyche is, and I think that's the type of manager he is. I think he could easily get them bouncing right back from the Championship, right back into the Premier League next year. Could see that happening. They're talented if they can keep their players and their signings. Rodriguez, certainly, I think, is a good player. They've got some good guys around. Ashley Barnes is still there. He's been injured so much throughout the last couple of years. Really trying to think of an American sports comparison. He's just been out for ages, but he's still a guy who I feel like is a good club legend almost for that team. Was their best player for a while and the striker and scored a lot. So I think he could come back there, and I think the other players that they have around him, obviously they lost their best player, Cornet, for a little bit. So I think as far as that goes, maybe they may be in certainly trouble, but have a chance to bounce right back next season, as we saw Watford do, as we saw Norwich do, as we've seen a lot of these teams. Fulham probably will do this year as well. So yeah, I think in terms of that might be what they may be looking for, and pocket that money, come back, get some reinforcements in the Championship, and then regroup and be back there in 2 years, which I think certainly could be done. Kind of depressing, really, as an American sports fan and as an American. 2 years you got to wait to get back to the Premier League. Why do they do it that way? It is pretty awesome, but certainly something that I think it's just, as a fan, you're kind of scratching your head a little bit man, if that was me, that would be tough. Could have the best season next year possible, and the only thing you can do is win the Championship, which is obviously, as an American, sounds weird, but win the EFL Championship and then get back into the Premier League. Certainly can't do more than that, obviously, as we know. But taking a look at Wednesday's games, I think it's interesting, a couple matchups. Man City versus Brentford. Certainly that shouldn't be a game. Brentford obviously has played better. And as we talked about, I think their defensive system has set them up a little bit better. They had some good results earlier in the season, beating Arsenal in the first game of the year, first game at their stadium, and they saw that had the guy with his tears coming down in the stands, the old man. That was amazing. Also drew with Liverpool 3-3 amazingly there, but I don't think anything. They're going to, I believe, the Etihad here in this next game, so that should be a blowout, as Man City obviously has been dominating everybody. Norwich and Crystal Palace. Dean Smith obviously has done a good job taking over there. They did briefly get out of the relegation zone with him, but I do think that they will. Obviously, now they are back down there. Crystal Palace, Patrick Vieira, I think, has done a marvelous job with that team, and I think they've won a lot of games that kept them in the hunt, and certainly they have a lot of talent, and if they got Eze back, if they can get him going, Zaha has played like up to his potential as well, so they've got some talent there. Spurs and Southampton, I think Conte, certainly for Spurs, has really turned things around. They're playing a lot better. He said at the transfer deadline that they were able to kind of correct some of the past mistakes that they made. Certainly a lot of people don't think that it was an overwhelming transfer haul that they brought in, but I think it was perfect for what they need. Definitely needs some stability in the back, and defense certainly was a huge thing. That back line was really shaky when you had a bunch of old guys there with Alderweireld back in the day before the season, and Dyer, and obviously those guys as well. So taking on Southampton, I think they've played really well recently, and couldn't beat Chelsea. Obviously, Chelsea's a little bit better than them. They outclassed them the couple times that they played in the Carabao Cup and then in the league. But the FA Cup, I think Spurs have a real good chance to make a run. We'll see what happens. Obviously, Man City, if they decide to actually play this out and they want to win it, it's obviously theirs to win, which sucks as a fan. You'd like to see it be a little more competitive, not just one team just buying all the best players and winning like they do in the league all the time. But I think that Spurs certainly have a chance to make a run anyway, which would be great for their fans. And then Villa and Leeds is the last game. Villa, obviously, they've done a remarkable job, and I think what they did at the transfer deadline was spectacular. Coutinho being brought in, that's outstanding. This team looks like they have money now. They sold Grealish, obviously going back down to the championship a few years ago and coming up. Dean Smith leading them up, and since they've gotten back, they've kind of were wobbly a little bit and almost got relegated again that first year, but survived on the final day, and Bournemouth ended up going down. And so for Aston Villa, I think when you look at that, they kind of have ambition. I think they've got enough money. They've stayed up, gotten that Premier League check, kind of, just held serve, stayed in there. And now they've got a chance to really solidify their team. They've got a lot of good players, I think, when you look at them. You look at, obviously, we mentioned Coutinho. You can take a look around the field, Buendia as well. I really think they've got a lot of guys who can do some things. Ollie Watkins, obviously. So this team, I think, is kind of loaded, and they've got a chance, I think, certainly to compete for Europe. I think that is their ambition. And maybe in the future, a few years down the line, maybe potentially, possibly take a look at competing for a Champions League spot in the future. I think that is their goal, and I think at this point, they've got a chance. They're definitely a big club, and they're finally getting back to that position where they were and having a chance to do that. So those are the teams there. Leeds, I think, also big game for them. They've got to keep winning, stay above that relegation fight, but I think that they are doing that right now. And you look at some of their attacking players, I think they've got enough to do that. And whether or not they come out victorious here, I think in the future, certainly they're going to accumulate enough points to be able to do that. Lastly, Thursday's games, Liverpool and Leicester. Of course, Leicester, over the past couple of years, obviously, I think they spent more time in the top four in the two previous seasons than any other team in the league, I believe, including Man City, but didn't end up in a Champions League spot either year, really collapsed down the stretch. I think that collapse has continued this year. It's kind of like a hangover season, not really quite sure what's going on. Brendan Rodgers, I think, unfortunately, has kind of lost it a little bit with them, and I think he needs to continue to stay in that role. I think he's certainly done an unbelievable job for them, really, when you look at where they were before he came in, and he put them really in the place to earn Champions League spots for 2 straight seasons, and they just faltered at the end. This year, kind of that is continuing a little bit. You take a look at Iheanacho, for some reason isn't getting the playing time, even though he scores. He just scored in the FA Cup game against Nottingham Forest, where they got completely outclassed somehow. That was insane that happened, but they're really struggling this year. Certainly they've got new guys, Poston Daka, who's done well, but they crashed out of Europa League. Just a tough year for Leicester, and hopefully they can stay around Europe spots and maybe make a run towards the end of the season, kind of the inverse of what they did in the past. But hopefully they can turn it around and kind of keep in there and maybe give it a go next season and see what happens. And then the final game is Wolves and Arsenal. I think for Wolves in that top 4 race, we mentioned the other teams that are in that race right now: West Ham, Man U, Arsenal, and Tottenham. Wolves are kind of on the outside as well. They've got 34 points now. Taking a look at them, kind of on the outside looking in, but still in that race and still with a chance. And I think when you look at them, they've done a great job with Adama Traore, obviously leaving to Barcelona through the transfer window. But in the previous years, I think Nuno Espirito Santo did a terrific job with the talent that he had. Had a lot of talent there, Jimenez, some of these other guys. But at this point, I think when you look at the rest of their team, I think they've done a terrific job of staying in this position despite losing Jota. Lost a lot of guys. They brought in some young players, a lot of Portuguese youngsters who look like they've got potential, but we'll have to see what happens. Have to see if they can stick around in that race. I don't think losing Traore after losing him on the wing, I don't think that they will hang around in that top 4, but you got to give them a lot of credit for what they've been able to do. Started slow, and I think in the past 2 years they started slow, but have been able to really get in there and maintain their status and stay up in the league pretty highly, and certainly competing for those European spots, which is, I think, certainly based on their recent history, definitely where they belong, and they've done a pretty good job of doing that as well. So that'll be interesting. Those games on Thursday, Wednesday's slate, pretty packed. Definitely glad to have the Premier League back. I won't have to be watching futsal anymore, and I think we're all happy for that. I think we can all say that. Thank you guys for watching this on Roundball Daily, and first episode. We'll have some more. I think next time I won't have to be as quiet. It's 11 p.m. here in my apartment building, so probably be shouting and banging the table a little bit more as we used to do back in the Endgame show days. But thank you guys for watching. My name's Kels Dayton, and have a great one. Enjoy the football. We'll see you guys.